Evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting back to order at 6:39 p.m. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right. I'd like to call the meeting back to order at 6:40 p.m. And I'm going to have our clerk lead us in a pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't say this all the time. Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second by the board that the agenda of the August 19th, 2025 be approved as submitted?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? All in favor? None opposed? No, it's the agenda. Let's go off of this. Can I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any questions and comments? I apologize. Okay. All in favor, none opposed? And can I have a motion and a second that the treasurer's report, including the cash report, general funds cash report, general fund revenue status report, general funds budget status report, school lunch fund cash report, the school lunch fund revenue and expenses budget report for the month ending May 31st, 2025 be approved?
So moved.
Okay.
Second. I'm waiting.
Any questions or comments?
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
Any questions, comments?
I asked them.
Yeah, no, we're good. I'm just ready.
We're good.
Raise your hand. Okay.
All in favor? All in favor? None opposed? May I please have a motion and a second?
Special reports.
Okay, yeah, it was here twice, so I apologize. So now we're gonna move on to special reports.
Okay, before we ask our partners to join us for special reports, we're actually going to just adjust our agenda a little bit because we have some special announcements to make. And we realize that our meeting is going to be very long, and we have some youngsters joining us this evening, and I don't want to be past their bedtime. So we're going to turn this part over as part of the superintendent's reports and superintendent's updates. Assistant Superintendent Evans has some things that she'd like to offer as part of the agenda.
Good evening. If Laura could stand, please. The Penfield Central School District, can everybody hear me? Is pleased to announce the appointment of Miss Laura Fitch as a new Director of Student Services. Mrs. Fitch has served as Special Education Administrator since 2024 and previously served as Social Emotional Learning Integration Specialist and elementary special education teacher for the district as well. Prior to coming to Penfield, she was an elementary school teacher in the Rochester City School District. Mrs. Fitch holds her administrative certification and master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Rochester, master's degree in special needs education from the University of Nottingham, and a bachelor's degree in childhood special education, English literature from SUNY Geneseo. She will begin her new position immediately, like tomorrow. Congratulations. Sheena Conway. Sheena Conway will now serve as the Executive Director for Humanities and Innovative Learning, overseeing professional learning, as well as library, literacy, ELA, and social studies. Congratulations, Sheena. Maureen Mustafa George will now serve as Executive Director for Strategic Innovation and Student Engagement, overseeing the district's strategic planning and school action plans. Congratulations.
So now we're going to resume the rest of the special reports. And for those of you that came for the special announcements, we're going to allow you to leave if you'd like to, or you can stay. It's really your choice. But thank you so much. We are so pleased to have these promotional opportunities here in our district. Each one of you really symbolizes all that our district stands for. You are aligned with the district's core values and beliefs. You hold educational excellence and equity at the core of all that you do, and the district continues to look forward to all of the wonderful work that you will be doing on behalf of all of our students, faculty, staff, and families in the Penfield Central School District. Thank you again for your work, and we look forward to the continued partnership. All right, so Dr. Driffill?
Sure. Yep. Good evening, board. This evening we have a couple special reports. So really it's been a multi-year effort, but in the last 8 or 9 months we've been beginning to think about our next capital project. Our current capital project was approved in 2021, and it's coming to a close here in the next year or so. So we're starting to think about future needs and what those things would look like from a design standpoint, from a timeline standpoint, from a cost standpoint, from a financing standpoint. So we've asked our capital construction team, our partners, our architects, our construction managers, and our municipal advisors to come present to you this evening some work we've done over the course of this calendar year. No approvals tonight. It's simply informational at this point for the board and for the community. So first up, we'll have SEI Design join us. So our architects there are Michael Ebert and Steve Steveski.
Well, good evening, everyone. As Dan mentioned, my name is Mike Ebert. I'm an architect and senior principal at SEI Design Group. And shortly we'll be walking you through some slides that represent and illustrate some of the design concept works that we've been planning. It represents capital improvements at all the district facilities. And as you know, we started probably 9 or 10 months ago, and we cast a wide net soliciting input from various stakeholders regarding things like asset preservation, infrastructure improvements, as well as program support. So you'll see tonight the distillation of that huge list down to a more manageable project, and we'll talk about the designs. We'll also have a presentation on associated costs and overall project timeline and financing plans for your consideration. Make sure you're on.
I'm on. Okay. Again, I'm Steve Steveski. I'm a project architect, project manager. I've been working with the district for the last 15 years or so, and again, looking forward to continuing on this effort and making Penfield School District one of the best in the area. I'll be walking through the work that is associated with each one of the school districts plus the district office, and you can see we will be touching base at every building in various shapes and forms. First, we're starting off at the high school, and the major scope of work would be On the outside of the building would be the multi-purpose field. It's just got completed over the last several months. It's been a very successful project, but we want to add lighting to the fields so that the fields can be used more in the evenings during the spring and fall seasons. So we started to plan for that effort in the last project, and now it just would be adding the actual lights themselves. Inside the building at the high school, you can see we'll do a heavy renovation at the green box, which is the locker room area. It's really an underutilized space at this point. We wanted to make that into a more efficiently used space, creating 4 separate team rooms for the Penfield schools and or any visiting teams. There would also be additional storage that we're creating, a space for trainers, and a dedicated space for a cardio fitness center that would relieve pressure off the current fitness space, allowing them to move some equipment to the cardio room and provide more space for weightlifting equipment in the current facility. The purple box indicated new roofing over the main gym that wasn't done in the project from 2019. Other work that's associated with the high school would be exterior caulking at the precast concrete panels, door replacement, hardware replacement, and modifying the tutoring center at above the main entrance to the sports field. Here's just an example, a more detailed concept drawing of how the locker rooms can be laid out in the existing space that's provided, showing the storage, the training room, and a new fitness center with examples of other projects that we've worked on at SEI Design, showing newly renovated spaces similar to this. Next, we have Bay Trail Middle School. This is really a Bay Trail Scribner combination. It was really addressing the parking lot needs. The paved surfaces are starting to show some wear and tear, and this would just be milling the top surface of the existing parking lot, putting new asphalt down and striping for the parking spaces. Other work at Bay Trail includes replacing skylights at the gymnasium. We have a bridge that has some structural requirements or repairs. So our structural engineers will address that and make sure that the expansion and joints are working properly so that there isn't any other future damage due to weathering and the expansion contraction of the bridge itself. We have a new nurses suite that is going to be moved closer to the main entrance of the building, and we've got work in the auditorium. There's a lot of finishes, new seating, new lighting, acoustics, sound system. Anything that's in front of the stage is going to be addressed, as well as some of the work just outside of the main entranceway. There's some carpeting and ceiling tiles that would need to be replaced, as well as lighting. We also are creating some additional spaces for meeting rooms and things. That's the yellow box in the bottom right-hand corner. And in the kitchen area, we're looking at modifying the serving line and creating an updated loading dock so that when trucks and vehicles come to unload pallets of food products or dry goods, it's got the ability to easily move the product from the truck into the building. Right now, the loading dock isn't sufficiently sized or designed to allow that to happen easily. Additionally, there will be exterior door and hardware replacement at select doors throughout the building. This slide just shows an example of what the nurses suite could look like once it gets moved from its current location, and examples of other projects that we've worked on at SEI Design Group. Finally, at Bay Trail, the areas identified in purple would be roof replacements. The next area is cobbles. It starts with the green box at the top of the page, which is boiler replacements in the boiler room. The large area, the cafeteria, 2018 project, we did renovated cafeterias at Scribner, and I think there's a need or want to kind of upgrade all the cafeterias, at least here and at Harris Hill, to be similar upgrades with finishes and looks that we did with the Scribner project a couple of years ago. A lot of the other work at Cobbles was really trying to make some of the spaces more efficient. There's a need for more meeting spaces, more space for speech or small classroom areas like that. So we were trying to make the space more efficient. We're taking the blue areas at either side of the gym are used to be locker rooms. They're not used as locker rooms anymore. So we're going to gut all the walls, provide more efficient storage systems for the gym equipment, and in doing so, creating more space for meeting rooms and things of that nature. Again, similar to the other buildings, we got exterior door replacements, hardware, and then playground replacement at this school. And again, skylight replacement at the gymnasiums. Harris Hill, again, similar to the, we're upgrading the finishes at the cafeteria, and the blue box represents modifications to a serving line, getting new pieces of equipment. The goal would be to try to get 2 serving lines in lieu of 1, which is the way the building currently operates. And the green box is air conditioning at the gymnasium. Again, exterior door replacement, door hardware, and there's an existing wood amphitheater that's used by the students in the back of the building on the outside that we want to replace the wood timbers that rotted and not working well, and just reconstruct that and to create a similar function that's more long-lasting and durable. And
with that kicking on, can you just make sure you're talking into the microphone?
okay, can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay. This slide shows roof replacements at the areas that weren't replaced in the project from 2018. Indian Landing, this is the lower level. Again, it's addressing the kitchen and serving lines. The goal being to reconfigure this space to provide additional storage, provide 2 serving lines into the cafeteria, and the red box is a small addition that would be needed to help facilitate the goal of having 2 serving lines. And the yellow box is replacement of the existing cooler freezer unit that's currently located in the storage area. Additional scope items would be main office HVAC. I think there's some concerns with the humidity in the space, library HVAC, and interior door hardware replacements. Again, this is just the upper floors at Indian Landing. You can see the blue boxes next to the gym. Again, similar idea to create some additional space for offices and things would be to make sure the storage rooms are more efficiently used by consolidating and removing walls that used to be part of a locker room, and then providing storage racks and things that would be more efficient. And then the red box on the lower plan is the addition that we talked about earlier for the kitchen area. These are 2 conceptual ideas for how the serving lines could work at the kitchen. And again, we would need to have this flushed out more with our kitchen design consultant, but the conclusion was that we really needed to put the addition on where the red box is to make this work to meet the goals. Work at Scribner. At the top of the page, there was a need for a larger music room, music suite. So we would propose an addition onto the building that was adjacent to the suite that was constructed as part of the 2018 project. The areas in green on the left-hand side of the page was just, again, more trying to make the space more efficient to create meeting rooms for the district. There would also be a couple of offices for the gym teachers and some toilet room renovations in the top or left-hand box with green box. The center area was just toilet room reconfiguration to try to make that more efficient, get more unisex toilet rooms, which is the way most schools, or a lot of the schools that we're working with, are trying to move away from the gang toilet rooms and move towards individual toilet rooms. And the area in blue at the bottom of the page was, again, utilizing underutilized space in the lobby area to create a conference room for the teachers in this building. These are just more enlarged details of the work areas. The drawing on the left shows the conference room. We would end up moving the doors from the center entrance to that lobby space off to the left to create the space. The center is modifying an existing locker room to create a more efficient storage, but also keeping toilet rooms and providing some additional built-in storage for the district office or the office space. And the right-hand side is just individual toilet rooms, replacing 2 small gang toilet rooms. And finally, the district office work would be ongoing here to replace the roofs throughout the entire building.
It's worth noting too that although some of the drawings look very formal and hard lined and finalized, these are just preliminary. We work with the end users to define it as best we can, and then that in turn allows us to have the best budgeting up front. So we just want to get close at this point, but should a project go forward, we'll spend another 9 to 10 months with the end users and make sure that doors are where they need to be. There's the proper storage, cabinetry is in the right location. So there's still lots of work to be done. So don't think that these are locked in at this point.
Members, any questions or comments?
I would just like to thank you for your expertise in reimagining spaces, because it looks like that's what a lot of school districts are doing, and I appreciate that. And then I don't know who this question is more directed to, but district office, do we know exactly what year that was built? I'm like, Barbara area would know.
Which part of the building?
Oh, I don't know, originally, like, do we?
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah, okay. I don't know, I was just walking by it the other day, I was like, I wonder how old that actually is.
We
Just
have
curious.
that paperwork.
Because I know it needs
We'll
roof.
send a note.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
We know that in our records. I just don't know off the
No,
top of
that's
my head,
fine.
but
Yeah.
we'll send Dan a note.
No, that's fine. I was just curious.
It's older than 50 years, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure of that. But I really do appreciate your expertise in communicating with the people that are going to use that space. I know
Oh,
that's
it's our
very
pleasure.
important for teachers. And
Yeah, I mean, we
staff.
don't know the spaces as well as they do.
Yeah.
So
Right,
it
thank you
helps
for
make
that.
it a good project that way.
Like Christin, I'd like to thank you for all of your work. And what I've noticed is that a lot of this reconfiguration, a lot of thought is going into what's best for our students: storage, bathrooms, updating equipment, changing freezers so that food stays fresh. I was particularly happy to hear about Harris Hill and the outdoor, like their little amphitheater, so to speak. Yeah, I had a kiddo who went to Harris Hill, and she would tell me all the time, man, those things are, I get splinters, or because I think it's wood, right? And it just a better environment for our students, so that they have a better mindset to do what they need to do, and for our staff as well. So thank you so much.
Oh,
It was our pleasure.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay, so our trivia question was, what year was Penfield's district office,
I could have done that.
yes, originally built in 1927 as the Grove School, Penfield District Number 5. It was remodeled in 1957 to serve as the administrative offices. How about that?
That's awesome. All right.
Coming up on 100.
1927, you said?
Makes me look young.
We all young.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Move on
Thank
to
you
some
very
costs.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So our next presenter is the Campus Construction Management Group. Like our architects, our longtime construction managers. Representing campus this evening is Jared Miller and Gary Huffman. So they're going to talk a bit about the logistics, right? The nuts and bolts. So we have the design, but how do we make that real? What does that look like? And that's what their expertise is. So Jared, Gary, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you again for having us. It's
Make
always
sure you use the thing because this is
Move this. I'll move me up. How about that? All right, is this better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's always a great opportunity to come up and talk about a little bit about your current project, and future projects are always exciting. So thank you to those that we've displaced over the summer while we're rebuilding the district office. We appreciate all of your patience. I promise we're getting close. So I'm Jared Miller, as Dan mentioned, project executive with campus. I've been on Penfield projects for 5 or 6 years now, and it's always been great working with you folks. So I'm looking forward to an opportunity on this future project, and I think we'll be very successful. Okay.
I'm Gary Huffman. I'm a vice president with campus. I've been working for the district since 2007. So I have had the distinct privilege and honor of working for Penfield Central School District all this time. So we appreciate the opportunity this evening to speak with you. Thank you.
So what our architectural team did a great job of is describing some of the scope of work that we're going to be looking at with this future project. So what we're going to do is explain some of the timeline, the budget, and then kind of how we work into that and how we facilitate, putting a project together and then ultimately running it through construction and closeout. So we'll start with a timeline. I'm not going to read every single aspect of it, but really there's 3 groupings. There's our pre-referendum, which we're in right now, our pre-construction, which is after it votes, construction, and then closeout. So we're in that 3rd group right now with our current project. So it's a perfect time to be planning for your next project. So those 3 arrows on the left, you see scope development, approvals, and timing, and public information. That's what we're going to be leaning into the next few months. So I'll explain a little bit further into that in the next couple slides. Pre-referendum, as I just said, so meeting with facilities committees and the OACM team, the owner, architect, and construction manager. So you're going to see OACM a lot in some of these presentations. So as Mike described, the scope that you saw on screen is just preliminary. It's a general understanding of some of what we've absorbed in the meetings and put on paper. So those will continue to develop all the way up until even construction at times, just to make the design better, make it more efficient, and really work with the needs of the district. So the scope definition process, like Mike said, we started months and months ago. We've been applying cost estimates along the way to kind of guide us and keep us within our lane. We've put schedules to it, and we'll talk schedule in just a second. The OACM team went through a process of prioritization where we've allocated, this is a must-have, this is something that maybe waits a couple of years, and then this is something that's on the wish list. So if we can do it, we'd love to. And then BPD, who's going to present directly after us, we'll get in a little bit more of the aidability review and discussion. Community involvement is always key. It's huge in these environments when we are looking for them to vote for a project, right? So being clear, communicating all of the aspects of the project between now and your potential December vote date is going to be immensely important. And once the board agrees and approves the resolution, those public information campaigns will begin. So preliminary budget, again, as we said, we're really looking at the very 10,000 foot level. We're looking at the ideas of scope and where they land dollars and cents wise. So right now we're budgeting roughly between 46 and 47 million dollars for the actual construction. That's what the contractors will cost to do the work. Within our budget, we also budget for construction contingency. We've spoken to this group, many of you, most of you, a few times about how construction contingency works. and how we are pre-budgeting for things like, hey, we were in this cafeteria doing this portion of the ceiling. It makes sense right now while we're doing construction. Why don't we add a little bit more to get the whole thing done? Or, bids came in favorable, we can get a little bit more done. So some of that contingency is budgeting to absorb some of those changes. And then there's always unforeseens, asbestos, things like that we have to account for. So that's what that contingency will cover ultimately. Our incidental budget covers costs for special inspections, the actual design, our efforts on the job. That comes out of the incidental budget, the legal fees, the insurances, things of that nature that are not construction. Capitalized interest in DASNY, that's just, if we have to kind of tie it out that way, that's just has to do with the funding of the project and borrowing. All of that combined lands us just shy of $64 million. Again, that's preliminary, that's just where we're at this point. I'll let BPD speak to that a little bit further, and obviously that number will change a little bit here and there, but looking to lock something in somewhere in that neighborhood. So those 3 arrows I referenced a couple slides ago: scope development, approvals and timing, and public information. Again, I don't want to read words on the screen to you, but really these are the important things to get done in the next few months to make sure that you have a successful vote in December. As we've said, we're continuing to develop the scope with the architecture team. And as that gets more and more refined, we'll continue putting costs towards those. We hold bi-weekly OACM meetings where we're talking about this every 2 weeks. As we get closer and closer, we may meet more frequently than that. But the key is communication through this process so that we're 100% sure that we're all directing the ship in the right direction. Approvals and timing, the Board of Ed obviously will review and approve the recommended scope after we've come to an agreement on what that looks like. Seeker, SHPO approval process, those are all things that we'll have to consider ahead of time. We don't know where we land with that as of yet, so we'll have to kind of target that for a future discussion. Bond counsel is preparing we'll prepare the resolution, the actual dollar amount. And then the Board of Education will resolve to authorize a referendum for the total amount of the project. And then again, once we've got all that in place, the public information is where we'll really tell everyone this is what the project's going to look like, this is the things we're looking to achieve, and there'll be a lot of marketing along with that. Campus always opens up the option to help as much as we possibly can with those efforts. That's really the marketing to get the word out on what the public is voting for. So, voting day, projects approved, right? Everybody's high-fiving. So what's next? That's really when we get the ball rolling with everything else construction related. We've moved from the pre-referendum phase to the pre-construction phase. So the design team will go on, I think Mike even mentioned it, 8-10 month process of design and approvals. So I'll touch on the timeline in just a second, but realistically that looks like, if you vote in December, the goal would be to design till maybe next fall, so fall of 26. Then put it in front of the state for approval. That takes anywhere from 4 to, in some cases, we've lived it, 8 months. Really, the goal is to land that in a place where we can then put it out to bid after approval sometime in the spring of 2027, right? So there's a lot of lead up before actual construction happens, and that's our goal is to hit that spring of 27 timeline.
When it starts.
I'm sorry?
Of when construction starts.
So it'll start shortly thereafter.
Okay.
What we'll do is, and I'll break it out for you a little bit further, but we get approval, we go right out to bid, we get their numbers, and then we plan the work in such a way that we can phase to get into this building at this time and this building at this time based on open spaces or type of construction, things like that. So it's all strategy. So yes, the goal would be, if we're bidding in the spring of 27, that we would be in some type of construction over either February break if we're early or April break if we're a little bit later. But those are really the peak times to get in and start while there's nobody in the buildings. And obviously that first summer would be when we really start making things happen. So we carry, throughout the entire process, obviously campus is continuously involved, over communicating most of the time, all the things that are happening on your project from pre-ref, pre-construction. Now we've bid, now we're into construction and then closeout. So right now, like I said at the start, we're in the construction and in some cases closeout with a ribbon cutting happening tomorrow at the transportation center. So we're in it from start to finish, and in cases like this, we're starting while we're finishing to some extent. So in pre-construction, like I said, we're planning the work, making sure we're prepared for construction. Our estimators will check in 3 to 4 times prior to us bidding, again, to make sure we're staying in our lane, keeping our budgets, where we need to be to achieve all of the phases of the project that has been promised to the public. Constructability review, our team will dig through the documents, they'll crawl in the crawl spaces, they'll be above the ceilings. We're gonna make sure that we're avoiding change orders before they happen, right? We're making sure before we put it out to bid, we're trying to answer some of the questions that the contractors are gonna bring up during construction. We take a lot of pride in that process. It's a very thorough process, and we work with the design team to make sure that those documents are as clean as we can possibly have them before they go out to bid. It's a collective effort, and it's proven dividends. So it's a process we're really, really proud of. And then planning the delivery, as I've mentioned, phasing the project in such a way that's favorable to the district, but also favorable to a contractor. If the phasing works with how a contractor wants to get in a building, their pricing is going to be reflective of that, right? So, we saw that with some of the work at the existing bus garage facility, where we were able to do work in September, October, November, whereas other school work is kind of throttling down. That one's kind of picking up. So you see better value when you can get contractors in off time. They want to be able to keep their folks working. So we're trying to be as efficient with our phasing as we possibly can be. And then bid strategies, just like I just mentioned, to try to maximize the bidders. Right? More competition is going to get you better numbers on bid day. So we're constantly contacting bidders throughout the process, making sure they're confident in what they're putting numbers on, because a confident bid is always going to be more competitive to when there's a lot of unknowns. So we've planned the work. Now we're into construction. We've awarded contracts. We're writing those contracts on your behalf, and then we're managing them from start to finish. The startup, writing the contracts, getting submittals in, getting them reviewed with the architectural team. Building and managing a schedule is huge. Obviously, that's our biggest communication piece. When are we going to be done? That's right. That's the most important question you guys ask. So if we can kind of target it well ahead of time, we set that goal in our bid documents so that the contractors are bidding to a certain date, right? We need to be done by this date in this space. And that's what they bid to, and that's what they try to hold to. Cost management, obviously, we're trying to manage costs throughout. We're reviewing change orders as they come in, making sure that it's fair, making sure that if there's another way to do something that might be more efficient, that we're working with the design team to make sure we're going that path, and then working with the facilities folks to make sure that all the changes we're making are going to work with the programming of that space. So, and again, communication. I know you like our paper copies of our monthly report, but we try to, every month we put together a financial and construction status report where we go over all the things that have changed on the project, all the progress being made, and then what the future holds in the next month to a year. We distribute those at the beginning of every month. We talk through them at our OACM meetings, and the goal there is just to keep you guys educated, because we always love getting questions, but the fewer questions you have to ask, the better, right? If we're keeping you informed, then we've done our job. So again, after the construction phase is closed out, we didn't put a slide together for that one because we want it to be quick, right? The goal for every project is to have a fast closeout, and we work to get those numbers and everything finalized and put together so you guys can finish work on your end and move on to the next project. So with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Board members, questions or comments?
I have a question. I have two. They're acronyms related. OACM Can you just tell me what that stands for, please?
Owner, architect, construction manager.
Makes sense. And then SEQR/SHPO, is that state approval?
See, go ahead.
No, but that's the state environmental quality review.
Yeah.
Okay.
That has to be done there's different levels of it depending on what the work is being done, but that has to be done.
Okay.
And the architect will take that lead and then bring the results back to you. And then you have to declare as a board a negative declaration that there's a negative impact on the seeker before you can set the referendum date. And SHPO is State Historic Preservation Organization. So a few years ago, SCD brought them into the fold, and any building over 50 years of age gets a review from SHPO. And SHPO may have recommendations on the design of the work that's being done to maintain the historical integrity of the building.
Yeah, some of the design aspects very recently that we did on the recent project at Indian Landing out front, we put that addition on. So there were some stipulations that we had to kind of keep the materials like the existing building, matching colors, things like that. So the architects did a good job of working with SHPO to make sure we achieved those goals.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely. So what you were asking, the state approval, that's New York State SED.
Right.
Yeah,
I
so
just
that's-
thought, I don't know. I thought.
So-
No,
But
state
but
and I
SCD
was-
needs that. Yeah.
There's lots of
There's
lots
so
of
many
acronyms.
Acronyms kill me.
But SCD is going to look at, make sure you did
Right,
your
so
SHPO and
obviously,
you did
okay.
your seeker process correctly.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick comment. So Kristen asked my question here. I have OAC. What was OAC? And you answered it. So thank you. Throughout your whole presentation, what I noticed is that your efficiency in every aspect of the project, time, with the scheduling, with resources, with our monies, and I really appreciate that. Maybe that's why Penfield Central School District has such a great relationship with y'all. And I forgot the other thing. It just slipped out of my head. Yeah. But thank you so
But
much
thank
for
you.
your presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
That was
Thank
very
you for the
thorough.
opportunity.
We appreciate the partnership with both of the groups that have shared thus far. And I'll just say the reports, I love the paper copies. I love to know the in-depth details that are going on, and I appreciate the high level of communication that both of you share, both of our partners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was it? Communication
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Jared.
with us, with the community.
Next up is our partners at BPD. So BPD is Bernie P. Donegan Incorporated. He was the founder of the firm. We've been with them for a long time. Those are the folks who are 1978.
Oh, wow.
They are the folks who are the licensed municipal advisors by the SEC. So they help us understand state aid, local tax impact. They're the folks who do all the bond writing when we go out to borrow money. So we've been working with Sarah Bradshaw for a really long time, and she's going to talk about, now that we've had a sense of maybe what could be in the project, what the timelines and costs for the project could be, how are we going to pay for this project? So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you for having me here tonight. Always good to get in front of the board and walk through this process with you. If you want me to go further into anything I'm discussing, feel free to stop me, let me know, ask questions, and then I'll check again at the end. But again, we work in tandem really with the rest of the project group. We move when they tell us to, when they provide information, and then we kind of put it back together to see what works well with the actual Penfield district. Still not good?
Getting there.
All right.
This thing's loud.
Oh, behind you, okay. So just getting into the first slide, we always like to start off with just a picture of your current building position. This is your financial look at all your past building and current building projects, including your current project that you're looking at. It's a combination of the debt service you have outstanding in column C, the building aid you have coming back. So each of your projects, the state pays you building aid back on all your dollars spent. That's what's coming back in column D. And then column F is your local share to your building projects. So again, this is all outstanding debt for the Penfield District associated with any of their past projects. The building aid, those negative numbers in that blue area, that is a positive local share. What that means is you have more building aid coming back into the district as a revenue than you do outstanding debt service. So well-managed, thorough, thoughtful practices here to be able to consistently bring building projects on and keep things going from time to time. So again, column F, that's really where we're going to focus. And once we get all the pieces of the actual project, authorization, dollars, what we're looking at, we always want to take a look at where our local share is and the impact to any community members. So the next slide here is really just a quick snapshot of a visual of how the project runs. I know you've kind of talked about that. Jared just did a good job explaining those phases of really the project management. We do the same, really just when the project's in those stages. So this is a pre-look at the financials and the impact of a project. Management going through the project, again, we ask for cash flows, how the project's going, when does the district need money. We don't want to borrow any funds until you need the funds. Then you're paying debt service on things that you do not need. So we work and ask for cash flows. We work with your project team to do so. Won't enter any financings until the district does need those sources. And then we're there in the closeout. So at the end stages of the project, we come back in and we close out all the paperwork for the project. So recording all the expenses, where they were spent and what building, and really just trying to maximize that building aid that you get back on your authorization. A lot of numbers here. This is just, again, the proposed look at the almost $64 million authorization, how it's broken out, the allocation of where those dollars are being spent. They just walked through kind of the scope and what work is being done at those buildings. This is really just where the dollars are falling. We look at this, we want to make sure a key assumption to putting any financials together is how much building aid you're getting back on those dollars. That's really the offset of any debt service and any impact that you have on any of your projects. So this page here really starts to lay out how your aid is coming back. So there's two components, main components of if a project is aided. How a project is aided. One is the scope items. If what you're spending your dollars are on are aid eligible through SED, State Education Department. Really that is most construction items, roofs, that easy stuff. If you want to buy a new desk, SED doesn't want you to put it in a building project, they won't give you aid on it. So again, key component, your first thing is your scope items aid eligible. The second thing is if they fall within your aid ceiling. So that each school building across New York State has a maximum cost allowance. The state will pay you aid up to a certain dollar for each of your buildings. There's a bucket of construction and then a bucket of incidentals, and they're aided out appropriately. This lays out where your proposed dollars are going against that aid ceiling, and if you fall within, it's a fully aidable dollar. If it goes above and beyond, you can do it. We just want to make sure we're working into the financials that those dollars are not going to be aided. Any questions on that? So current look, we have some red popping up here, but your reconstruction dollars are really fitting within your aid ceilings. Again, this is a good document to look at when you are planning your projects. If one of your buildings doesn't have a lot of aid ceiling availability, maybe you can aim some scope at a different building and get the building aid coming back, and then layer in projects down the road to when the aid ceiling opens up at a different school building. So moving on to other key assumptions here. The first one on top, that's your building aid ratio. So the ratio that the state pays you back on every dollar that's aidable for Penfield. So you're at 80.1%. That's the aidable building aid ratio in 24-25. The estimate for 25-26 is actually slightly higher. Pretty conservative office, so we'll always make sure we're looking at the most current rate as well as the estimated, and whatever one is lower, we're gonna go with that. And if you get the benefit of higher aid, that's great, but we wanna make sure we're conservative. So for this analysis, we're showing 80.1%. So the state pays you building aid of 80 cents back on every aidable dollar that you spend with the project. Estimated bond percentage, number 2, that is coming from that maximum cost allowance we just went over, right? That tells us the aidability percentage of this project specifically. The total project here is actually being aided at 92.2%, so almost fully aided there. We do have in one of the, underneath that estimated bond percentage language, we always, again, conservative back 5% off, assuming we do go over the aid ceilings, or there is something that you want to fit within the project that SED does not aid as far as scope items. So again, just a conservative measure to make sure everyone's comfortable with the numbers, just a little cushion there. So with that factored in, you're still at 92.2% of the project being aided. Other than that, the ones really 3 through 9 there are just dates. Again, they align and they kind of roll together, right? We check with your project team, how the project is being submitted to the state, SED approval, those dates. We want to make sure we're ready for the financial plan. And then when construction is starting, there's state aid forms that need to be filled out along the way. So one of your first ones that we'll have a handle on is after contracts are awarded, you got to report that to the state, and that kind of gets their first hand in what aid is coming back to the district. Certain timing on that. Assumed borrowing rates play a factor here. Your capital reserve amount that you're able to contribute to the project to help offset any local share is $17.8 million. Again, that helps in the front stages of a project. You really can hold off on borrowing as long as possible. So within those beginning stages, you hold off. We really just started getting into the borrowings of this current project. So great interest savings if you don't have any borrowings out there that you're paying debt service on. You also don't get any building aid back on any projects until at least 18 months after SED approval. So there's always that gap. So you really want to hold off as long as possible so you don't have debt service that you have to pay and your building aid hasn't started yet. So it's kind of a mismatch. So your reserves is a great way to start a project, and again, hold off that borrowing, save interest as well as management there. Your building aid for reconstruction projects, that's coming back over 15 years. So you'll see any numbers that we project, we really just line up that payback schedule for any borrowings over the same length of time as that building aid coming back in. And this is all where it all lands. These are the numbers, lots of numbers here. So again, we're looking at a little under 64 million. Column B there for that capital reserve amount, you can see plug that in first, get spent down first. Again, hold off on your borrowing. If we look in column G, that's your building aid. So with this almost $64 million authorization, you would have building aid coming back in over 71 million. Again, that's 80 cents on every dollar, adds up to great things for the district here. The gray column in J is your local share. So there's nothing there. So really the combination of your capital reserve use as well as that building aid coming back to the district, there is no increase in local share to this project in order to bring this on. Any questions on any of that? Perfect.
Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to superintendent report.
Yes. Yes, we have this evening a few things to share as part of our reports. We're going to start with our student and staff honors. And for Section 5 scholarships, congratulations to our Penfield High School 2025 graduates, Leah and Micah, who were named Section 5 scholarship winners for the 2024-25 school year. They each received a $500 scholarship and were featured in the Section 5 scholarship show at the end of July. Dr. Driffill, you can. we held our Penfield Transportation bus safety program, and it was successful for our incoming kindergarten students and their parents during the first week of August. We'd like to thank you all for participating and for planning this wonderful event for our new students. We'd love to thank our transportation department for their hard work and dedication. This is an annual thing that they do for our incoming kindergarten students. And then team recognition. Congratulations to the Penfield High School girls lacrosse team on being recognized at the August 12th Monroe County Legislature meeting for their sectional and state titles. Way to go, girls lacrosse. And Jared referenced earlier as part of his presentation, we are excited to announce that tomorrow we will be holding our first community event at our new Transportation and Facilities Center. We will have a ribbon cutting. We plan to offer the community building tours, and to close the evening, we will have an ice cream truck. So we look forward to the community joining us at our new Transportation and Facilities Center at 1340 Jackson Road. And so now I'm going to provide just some updates on the work that the district is going to be engaging in this year. We've actually started to have some discussions in our district around strategic planning. And I wanted to just share what strategic planning is. It's a roadmap that helps to define the district's vision, mission, goals, priorities, and action steps. I'm also pleased to announce that our new executive director for strategic innovation and student engagement will be helping to guide this work, our executive director, Mrs. Marine Mustafa George. So we look forward to her leadership with our district's work around strategic planning. But I'll just say in the context of education, a district strategic plan anchors the district in our goals. It helps to establish a clear direction for our school. It aligns resources, our people, our time, and our money so that we're all working towards a common goal. And it provides a framework for decision making and measuring progress. And lastly, it promotes transparency and accountability of all of our stakeholders. So this year, we're going to be utilizing these 5 goals to lead us through the strategic planning work that we'll have. We've spent some time, and I'll share just in a moment, with some stakeholder groups to get this work started. But it's important to note that as a district, we will be focusing on safe and supportive school climate, educational excellence and student-centered curriculum, family and community partnerships, high quality staff and professional learning, and operational excellence and resource stewardship. And so the benefits of strategic planning, it really helps to provide a purpose of clarity. It increases the motivation that we have in our district. It allows for a sense of ownership and shared responsibility across all of our stakeholders. It helps us to create benchmarks and measure the growth and success of our students. It makes it easy for us to understand the progress that we're making. And most importantly, I think what we really want to emphasize is a strategic plan is rooted in community. It will allow us to bring our community together. We'll access our community's voices. This is where families and staff will partner with us to make sure that we are moving in a direction that we all share, and one that is centered in our students' well-being. And so the timeline for the work, we want to talk a little bit about where we've been and where we're headed. This timeline will span from this summer of 2025 to the spring of 2026. We've already started to do a lot of great work. We've had the opportunity as part of our instructional leadership retreat this summer, data looking deeply at the data, analyzing the data, understanding how this data is going to inform our decision making as educators in the district. We've also had a workshop with our Board of Education so that they would be introduced to the work of our strategic planning goals and ideas. And lastly, I'll just say that our senior cabinet has been talking regularly and planning so that we could be clear about what this work is going to look like over the course of the year. And so as we begin the school year this fall, we want to hear the voices of our community, our stakeholder groups. We want to hear from our students, we want to hear from our faculty and staff, and our families. We also will bring those same stakeholders together so that we can have some listening sessions. That's what we want to hold under the umbrella of our focus groups. And then we're going to bring our board back together and do some more workshopping so that they have updated progress along the way of how we are doing with the work. We'll continue to work as a senior cabinet and our instructional leadership team. As we head into the winter months, we want to bring the community together for a design day. This is where we will have a full day together and we will tap into the ideas of the community, really being intentional about accessing those ideas and folding them into the goals that we will ultimately end with as part of our strategic plan. And as we head into the spring, that plan will be finalized. We'd like to release that plan to the community and to the Board of Education. And then the work from that point on will be about progress monitoring and understanding the new systems and structures that we've identified and we're prioritizing as a result of all of this data and input. And typically when you think about a strategic plan, you think about identifying goals that you'll be able to track and monitor the progress for over a 3 to 5 year period. But we're hopeful that we have a strategic plan that will take us the next 5 years. And over that time, we also realize that there's a place within that strategic plan that if we need to pivot and show some flexibility and fluidity, we will do that to make sure that we're constantly paying attention to the needs of our students. But I felt it was important for the community and the board to have this update as we continue to walk through this timeline and really dig into the start of the school year being an opportunity for us to be thoughtful and intentional and strategic in our planning. Okay? So before I transition, I know that we've done some work with the board, but does the board have any questions that they'd like me to respond to before I continue the report? Okay, all right. So now I turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Pérez for Educational Services update.
Good evening. So the hot topic is the cell phone policy. So I'm going to provide you with an update on our work in the district, and wanted to make a note that we are prioritizing excellence, and you'll find throughout the presentation tonight that is a common theme in the work that we have focused on. So as part of our unwavering commitment to fostering excellence in education and student well-being, the Office of Educational Services has taken deliberate and thoughtful steps to implement the district's new internet-enabled devices policy in alignment with the Education Law 2803 and the recent legislation enacted by Governor Hochul. This policy, which restricts the use of personal electronic devices during instructional hours, is designed to address growing concerns around student distraction, mental health, disciplinary issues, and safety. Our approach centers on creating a focused, respectful, and secure learning environment across all grade levels. So, one of the important things that, came out of our work with our committee was to make sure that we had communication with our families. And that, began with our July 16th letter to families, in which we introduced the policy and outlined the rationale, including the adoption of the Yonder pouches as a preferred method for securing devices. This message emphasized the benefits of distraction-free learning, safeguarding personal property, and providing a user-friendly experience for students. We then followed up with another letter on August 8th and provided clarification on policy exceptions, including medical needs, IEP, 504 accommodations, translation services, and caregiving responsibilities. We also shared a detailed, frequently asked questions document to address common questions and concerns. These communications have helped establish a foundation for understanding and cooperation as we move forward. So as part of the implementation planning, the policy holds that, in grades pre-K through 5, the personal electronic devices are not permitted on school grounds or on buses. The middle and high school grades 6 through 12, the devices must be powered off and secured in their yonder pouches throughout the school day. Exception protocols, so we have clear procedures have been established for students with documented needs, ensuring compliance with the law while honoring individual circumstances. The district building level coordination has been a great effort, and in collaboration with district and building level administrators, we met with a yonder representative for the initial onboarding session. This meeting provided foundational guidance on implementation and policy reinforcement. Each building principal conducted a walkthrough with the respective school to determine optimal locations for the yonder magnetic unlocking stations, ensuring smooth and accessible end-of-day pouch unlocking for students. And on August 4th, I convened a planning meeting with all building principals to finalize rollout logistics, address implementation questions, and align any building level strategies with district-wide goals. As part of the continued implementation planning, there will be orientation events. So Bay Trail and Penfield High School have communicated to families that yonder pouches will be distributed during each of their grade level orientation events, as well during the first day of school if they're not able to attend any of those orientation events. These events will serve as an opportunity to introduce the policy, to demonstrate the pouch system, and answer any questions that they may have. In terms of the caregiver support, in collaboration with Dr. Allison Stiles, URMC, there were scheduled 2 webinars for caregivers to support their efforts in guiding students through this transition. These sessions will provide practical strategies and address any questions related to student adjustment and well-being. And we had one today during our board meeting time, so that another one will occur tomorrow. So we had 2 sessions to make sure that families were able to make one in the evening or one at noon tomorrow. In terms of our Yonder partnership, Yonder has been a critical partner in our launch, providing expert guidance, training materials, and ongoing support to reinforce policy compliance and establish a phone-free culture. While the initial rollout is complete, Yonder continues to support our district through regular check-ins and additional training to ensure the program runs smoothly and successfully throughout the school year. So one of the things in terms of prioritizing excellence, so there's been a lot of research, there's been a lot of articles shared throughout the internet in terms of people's viewpoint and perspectives, and one perspective that I was able to really capitalize on the whole thing with prioritizing excellence is from Dr. Paul Miller's recent article, where he titles his article "My Child Needs Their Cell Phone" with an exclamation point. And he offers a very compelling viewpoint that aligns somewhat with our district policy goals. And as a former principal and current CEO of a charter school, he highlights the profound impact of the cell phone use on student focus, the engagement, and academic achievement. And one of the things that he writes that I wanted to share, he says, phones are not just in the way, they've hijacked our children's focus and fractured their ability to stay present in the classroom. And throughout our meetings with our cell phone policy committee, that was one of the themes, right, that kept resurfacing. How do we balance, right, having, students be able to learn how to use their cell phones, but at the same time, right, be able to focus with their schooling. And, he draws on data from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, where he shows that there's a troubling decline in academic performance, particularly among Black and Hispanic students since 2015. And he attributes part of this decline to the pervasive distraction of smartphones and calls for intentional school culture and discipline as key drivers of success. His experience with, the charter schools and other, school districts, he says that 95%, by not having any type of smartphones or internet-enabled devices during the school day has allowed for a 95 graduation rate in some of those districts, right? And, that just underscores the power of focused environments. And I would like to close, his the article summary with, we didn't let distractions run the school, we set the culture, right? So as we move into this transition, collaboratively with our families, with our district leadership, our building leadership, we want to make sure that, we focus on prioritizing excellence for our students. And you might ask, what are, next steps as we move into this huge transition? We remain committed to continuous improvement and responsiveness. So in the coming weeks, we will definitely monitor the implementation across buildings and adjust, procedures as needed. We will continue engaging families through targeted communications and support resources. And we will evaluate the impact of the policy on student engagement, behavior, and academic outcomes. Any questions?
Board members, questions or comments? I guess my question is, so when you say evaluate, is there like a form or like a structure? How do you plan to evaluate the behavior and academic outcomes? So is it like a formal or informal evaluation?
I think it'll be a mix of both. At this point, is looking at meeting, having continuous meetings with our building administrators and their team to see what the impact has been of the cell phone policy, and just hear the feedback both from staff and students and families to see if there's anything that we need to look into to further support this policy that has been enacted by the governor of New York State.
Can you talk a little bit about what you anticipate maybe like the first day of school looking like with this new process?
So I anticipate a lot of anxiety and unknowns, right, with students having to put their cell phone into a Yonder pouch. So obviously, students will receive their Yonder pouch throughout, their orientation events and on the first day of school if they're not able to make that. But just, having support staff and building administration, our safety and security team available to also support as students come into the building, and making sure that students are, putting their cell phones into their pouch and locking them. And, there's going to be a plan to supervise that this is happening, right? So, the idea is that, in first period, we will do a check-in to see that students are following through, answering any questions or concerns, so that we have a smooth transition.
Right, what about the end of the day?
So for the end of the day, as part of the Yonder pouch, each school has an allotment of magnets to unlock the pouches. So strategically, when we did the walkthrough with the representative, principals were able to basically choose which entrances and or exit they were going to have those magnets available for students to seamlessly, on their way out, be able to unlock that pouch.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Good luck.
I just have one question for you, Micah. The webinar with Dr. Allison Stiles.
There was one this evening, which I did sign up for, but I'm here. And there's one tomorrow at 12.
Tomorrow at noon.
Which I did not sign up for because I'm working. So is it going to be recorded or available?
Yes, it'll be available.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do you have a sense for how many, or do we know how many families took part in tonight's?
There were 30 families signed up for tonight, and there's 10 signed up for tomorrow.
Okay. So we're going to transition into our human resources update, which we already did part of. So we're going to quickly jump past the first few slides, and then there's some discussion around leadership reorganization. All right. So next slide. Next slide.
Thank you. All right, so the special education administrators, that is the current title. The new title for our 3 special education administrators will be Assistant Director for Specialized Programming and Supports. This is to align with the current director's title. The rationale is to ensure that these individuals are seen as program leaders and not just leaders of special education, as they are active participants in the district MTSS process. And also another change in the title is Director of STEAM is now being changed to Director of STEM. So Kimberly Gebhardt. Arts, the arts will be reassigned to Kumba Sanko's responsibilities. That's all, thank you.
We're gonna move
Good.
to. Yes.
Did you jump to me?
Yes. 'Cause
All right.
updates.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Any
Any
questions?
questions or comments, board members? You just did such a good job. It was like really thorough, so I apologize. Thank you.
Great. So I just wanted to touch on the capital project planning that we saw earlier. Obviously a very in-depth presentation, but from our perspective, we think it's a good project. It's a lot of nuts and bolts. So there's not a lot at this point that's really kind of wish list things. It's a lot of our building condition survey items. So you saw a lot of roofing in there. There's some security things. We have boilers, doors, windows, masonry. It's a $64 million project, which seems like a lot, but is less than what our capital project was in 2021. And that's after 5 years of pretty significant inflation as well. And the thing that I want to make sure was noted in Sarah's presentation is that there's no additional tax impact currently as planned. So many of them discussed potential for a December referendum, community vote. That is kind of the plan at this point. To get there, we would need to have board approval sometime in the next 6 weeks or so. So we have a couple meetings coming up where we'd be able to consider this. We have to meet with Emily and Patrick again on facilities committee to just go through a couple more things that we're working on, kind of, last minute revisions. But we're pleased with the state of the project, I guess. We're certainly open to additional thoughts and considerations. Nothing's set in stone yet. So please, if you have additional thoughts or concerns or hear from your constituents, bring it to the board officers. We'll bring it to Dr. Potter, and we'll make sure that's considered. Don't want to leave any good ideas outstanding. For your action this evening, we have one capital project change order. It's actually just one. It's a credit back to the district. We have to approve the food service budget for next school year, so it comes in at about $2.6 million. Obviously, with the free meals program this year, we're really interested in to see how things are going to look like volume-wise. Luckily, we have the hindsight of the COVID waivers that were in place, so we have a decent idea in terms of breakfast and lunch about what we can expect. It's a significant uptick over this past year. So Angela Dunson, our food service director, has been working, pretty tirelessly this summer to make sure that she has proper menu planning, ordering up to date. We're going to take a look at our staffing needs. So if, breakfast comes in a lot heavier than we're expecting, things to think about. In both of the Harris Hill kitchen and the Indian Landing kitchen, part of the proposed capital project, Both of those would move from 1 serving line to 2 serving lines, just to move more kids through in a short amount of time. And obviously there's no meal price changes because everything is free. There are still a la carte pricing in effect. There's a second milk cost pricing in effect, and a second meal cost pricing in effect. In addition, staff, teachers can buy a lunch. All of those prices are going to remain the same next year, so there's no formal action required on those. The food service fund has done a good job financially the last couple of years, so we're hopeful that this will be another good year. Angela wasn't able to attend tonight. Usually she does attend the August meeting. She was moving her kiddo to college today. But she's going to be back at the September meeting to give you kind of an annual update program-wise, what she's looking at for the upcoming year. Every August, we need to adopt the tax warrant and establish the tax rates. So Lynn should have given you an affidavit form that needs to be signed for each one of our 6 towns. We'll go through what those tax rates ended up being in just a moment, but those will need to be approved tonight. We have to approve private duty nursing contracts. So these are the individuals that we contract with for kiddos that have medically fragile needs in different settings, different placements, not necessarily just Penfield. We have to approve a service contract with Villa of Hope. So it's a long-time partnership we have with Villa. We have to approve a service contract with Elevate, who do some of the strength and conditioning programs for our athletes. Service contracts for nursing services. So those 2 agencies are WorkFit and the Castwood Group. So they supplement different health service needs across the district. And then we also need to approve the district-wide emergency response plan, which was presented to the board at our last meeting in July from Mr. English. And there was no changes from that initial presentation. So the tax levy and collection period will begin September 2nd. September 1st is Labor Day, so nobody will be at Town Hall to receive. If you pay online through Monroe County, the installment plan, you can begin to send payments, I believe, on September 1st. A penalty is applied after October 1st. It's a 2% fee. The board must annually adopt the tax warrant and set the rates, as I mentioned. The levy and the assigned fund balance are exactly equal to what we were projecting back during the budget development process, and the rates are as follows. So how this sets up is the first column is what the prior year tax rates were, the 25-26 tax rates that will be adopted tonight, the dollar difference, the percentage difference between those 2 rates, and then that forecasted column is what we had projected back in the spring. So for instance, Penfield, we were projecting a 3.8% tax increase, and it ended up being a little bit less, a 3.74% tax increase. So we were pretty close on all of the towns. All the Monroe County towns were a couple hundredths of a place off, and the 2 Wayne County towns were just about spot on. So what that is reflective of is pretty solid data from our assessors back in the spring. So not a lot of changes in terms of assessments or exemptions. I always draw the bottom, your eyes to the bottom row, the true value tax rate. So the true value tax rate represents what would be if all 6 of our towns were fully equalized at 100%, meaning that their assessed values were equal to perceived market value. That tax rate would drop from $17.90 per $1,000 of assessed value to $16 and a penny. Almost $2 or over 10% difference there. So I guess the long story short is all the tax rates are relatively close to what we were projecting back in the budget development season, and tax collection officially starts here in a couple weeks. Any questions or comments for me?
I have one. Dan, I know that currently, like my school that I work at, the kids can get free lunch, but they only get free lunch if they also get the milk. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I guess my question around that is are we going to be clearly communicating that to families? Because I don't know that all families even understand that, the kids are like, I don't want a milk. And I'm like, oh, but and I know in my heart, it's a kid that should get the milk so they can get the free lunch, but I'm not allowed to really say that to them. That's sticky,
Yeah.
so just communicating that somehow to families.
I
so
know
they are
there's been
aware.
an initial communication, and Mrs. Bradsheet's here, so we could work on this again. As we approach school opening, we can give families reminders on what they need. I know the food service staff in the buildings also do a good job of it, saying, oh, you need to grab this, and you need to grab this. because we're part of the federal lunch program, and there are just standards on what exactly you need to have to call it a meal.
Right.
In some ways, I worry about the waste associated with that.
I know.
Right.
Right.
But the rules are the rules. So they do a really good job of ensuring they're taking what they need, particularly the elementary kiddos.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Right.
So we don't have public comments.
Yes, so you just say that we don't have anybody signed up.
Yeah, so we don't have anyone signed up for public comments tonight. So no.
Facilities.
Then I have to do the change order, right?
Yeah, which is
Facilities.
change orders, yeah.
Nothing. Facilities. Okay.
Yeah, we're on 6 now.
Yes. May I please have a motion and a second that the change order as described be approved?
So moved.
A second.
All approved? Approved. All in favor, sorry. All right, so we're moving now. Can I please have a motion and a second that the board approves the update for the organizational items as recommended?
So moved.
Second. Second.
Okay. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed?
Now on financial items.
What happened?
I'm talking to myself, sorry.
Okay. The recommended food service C fund budget for $2,590,000 for the 2025-26 school year. Can I have an motion and a second that the board approves the lunch fund budget for the 2025-26 school year as recommended?
So moved. Second.
Any board members, any questions or comments?
All approved. I thought I had to do that before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Any, all approved? May I please have a motion and a second that describe transfer of adjustment for the approved, transfer adjustment be approved and that the school tax rate for the 2025-26 year be set based upon the real property tax levy of $72,894,407.
So moved.
Second.
Board members, questions or comments? Okay. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed? Can I please have a motion and a second to approve independent contractor agreement with Charmaine Brown, Susan Robbins, Aaliyah Toali, is that, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Daenerys Rodriguez, right, to provide private duty nurses service for medically fragile students effective July 1st to 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Board members, questions or comments? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. May I please have a motion and a second that the Board of Education authorize the Superintendent of Schools to enter into a contract with Villa of Hope?
So moved.
Second.
Board members, questions or comments? Okay. All in favor? And may I please have a motion and a second that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to enter into a contract with Elevate?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments, board members? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. And may I please have a motion and a second that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to enter into a contract with WorkFit to provide supplemental nursing staffing services.
So moved.
Second.
Board members, questions or comments? No, okay. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed? And may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to enter into a contract with the Casewood Group for supplying trained, properly licensed clinicians for staffing support services.
So moved.
Second.
Board members, questions or comments? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed? And so, may I please have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approves the following policies as presented?
Before we approve, let's talk about the first read.
Oh, okay, we're gonna talk back up, we're gonna talk about the first read.
Yes. So I just wanted to share, we have a process where we have been going through. We are in the process of taking a look at all of our district policies. We are utilizing the policy manual from Erie One BOCES. And as the senior cabinet has been reviewing all of our policies, we came across two that we wanted to put before the board and the community as first read. We also have had some experience over this past year where we realized that some of the limits that we have to support some of our district responsibilities were too low. And I'm going to actually ask Dr. Driffill to speak to both of these policies, policy 5330 for budget transfers and policy 5420 for procurement cards and credit accounts.
Yep. So the budget transfers policy first read, the language is exactly the same. It's just the dollar amount is changing, and what it is actually just a reflection of practice. The budget transfer amount moves from $15,000 to $20,000. It's actually something that's established on the reorg. But when we were going through the policy manual, we noticed that the number was off, so we wanted to bring it to the board to formally update. And as Dr. Potter just mentioned on the credit card policy, again, no verbiage is changing, it's just the dollar amount. What we found is that the district credit card cap of $5,000, like I said earlier, with inflation, $5,000 doesn't go as far as it used to, particularly for rentals of things like charter buses and things like that for state sectional games. So that is being bumped up. When it comes to the credit card, we do a really good job of managing it. It's really held very closely by our district treasurer. We don't really allow it for anything. It's just those one-off kind of vendors that don't take purchase orders, they don't take checks, something where they require a credit card that day. So that's the purpose of the card and the purpose of increasing it, the value.
So given that information, board members, do you have any questions for us about those two policies? Otherwise, we want to just put them out as part of our first read and address the changes that are necessary as aligned with inflation.
Can you just give the community an example of when, on like policy, the first one, 5330, like when we would need to transfer $15,000? Like give a few examples so they understand the rationale behind
it could
that.
be for anything. So that is any transfer between codes. So we have 700 some odd budget codes. Throughout the year, there might be a need to spend more money in this code than we had projected, so we need to transfer money into that code. If it's more than $15,000, it has to go to the board for approval. We also at year end will look to see, hey, have we spent all of our equipment money? Hey, have we spent all of our supply money? Can we do something creative with those dollars? So we'll transfer money from different codes into different codes. Sometimes there are salary code changes that need to happen. So you have a bunch of maternity leaves in one building, so you need to transfer money to cover substitutes. You have a spike in gas prices, and you have to transfer money in there. I mean, there's literally a litany of variances that can go haywire financially, but that's what that is. It's just transferring money from one budget code to the other to pay for something, and if it's more than now $20,000, it definitely has to go to the board for approval.
Thank you. I think that clarification helps our community know like why we're upping by that or increasing by that amount. Then my other question, Dan, is can you also just give us some examples of why we would need to just go on our credit card?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's just some of those vendors that do not take purchase orders. So definitely one of the examples was the charter buses. They're in such short supply that sometimes they call you in the morning and they say, oh, we can do it at this price. They call you back at 1 and say, oh, we can't do it, we're booked. They call you back at 3 o'clock and they say, oh, we can do it again, but the price is $1,500 higher. It's relatively few and far between, but there are just some specialized vendors that we either can't buy through a bid, we can't buy it through one of our established processes. They only require a credit card, but it's few and far between, as I mentioned. Just that $5,000 limit, we've hit that really fast.
Right. Thank you.
Board members, any other questions or comments? Okay. So may I please have a motion and a second that Board of Education approves the following policies as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. May I please have a motion and a second that the board approves the 2025-26 District Emergency Response Plan as presented on July 15th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. And we're moving to the 2025-2026 Board of Education meeting schedule. May I please have a motion and a second that the revised 2025-2026 Board of Education meeting schedule be approved as listed?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional comments or questions, board members? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. And so that brings us to new business.
Just mention this.
Oh, yes. And so, yes, the NISBA Annual Convention and Education Expo is August,
It's in October.
It's October 23rd through the 25th of 2025 in New York City. And registration opens Tuesday, August. It's already open 12th for board members that's interested in attending. And it's also going to be, I believe, there's also a virtual option too, I believe, as well, if you can't get there.
It's just not as fun.
It's not. And so that brings us to new business. And so, just pull up my notes. So one of the things that I like to provide is to board members and also to the community is regarding the board members serving as liaisons. So as you know, we participated in like workshops this summer and been in consultation as well with legal counsel and the Monroe County School Board Association. And we wanted to make sure that the work that we do it's aligning with like best practices with and our legal guidance with Monroe County. And so with that being said, serving as a board liaison to outside of our board responsibilities to groups such as like the PTA or the PTS or the booster club or the PTO, what it does is it puts individual board members in a really difficult situation because legally we cannot operate as an individual representative of a board in those settings. And so with that being said, one of the things under advisement from Monroe County and also seeking advisement with our legal counsel, we've decided to kind of pivot and revamp how we engage with the community, because engaging with the community is extremely important to us. But we want to make sure that we're doing it in alignment and within our role as board members, because I think that's important. And so I have had an opportunity to, one of our board members, he is not here, and he has talked about like his in agreement with this, but I also wanted to just open this up to other board members to really discuss their thoughts on it. But so I'll turn that over to you all at this time if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, I would personally like to comment. So just I've been thinking long and hard about this, and as a board, one of our goals is partnership and with the community. And my concern around this pivot is that it hasn't been past practice. And part of being a board member, I understand, like we should always, our first goal should be student-centered. And I think our partnership with our families is incredibly important. And I worry that when we're changing something that has been past practice for long before my time on the board, families are going to view that as we're cutting them out. And I know that's not the intent with this move. Mm-hmm. I know the intent with this move is to be legal. But I do know as a parent, if I was, attending these to get more information from board members or from our school, the first thing I would be doing would be looking at other school districts and see what their policy was and what their protocols were. And when I would see that other school districts were doing this, I think I would personally struggle with that move as a parent. And I just think there's other ways of us still being a part of that while remaining within our legal responsibilities. And I think one way of doing that is sharing a common, like attending and sharing the exact same thing where that's written up, and Dr. Roberts is going to say one thing, I'm going to say the exact same thing, Susan would say the same thing, so they can at least hear that information from us. And I do understand that we have avenues of providing information with them, but I also know, having sat as a liaison and having gone to these meetings, a lot of time questions arise just in that meeting and conversation. And yes, I think we can pivot from answering those questions, but I think just being there to hear it and writing it down and saying, I will get back to you, I'm going to bring this to our superintendent and they will take it to the appropriate person to respond to you. I just really worry that saying, hey, we're not coming anymore, I think that sends a very dangerous message to people. I think how that is going to be perceived is going to be dangerous for us. I think they're going to feel that we're not present and that we don't care. And I know we all care deeply, but I just think I'm very concerned about that.
Can I ask a question? How many other school districts do this, have the liaison? Given that it's not supposed to be practice, do we know other school districts that do this?
My school district does.
And I know Webster also does.
Which is Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton does.
Webster definitely does it.
I would have to agree with what Christin said. people look forward to us being there, if for nothing else, to build a relationship. You have one person that is your go-to in between the board and or the community and the district. It's relational. I think it's huge, especially when, you know, we have issues within the community. Us being present and being that listening ear helps lessen really the rhetoric around the board. And if we're saying we're not going to be doing that anymore, I could definitely see the community having a big issue with that. Even people that may not have come to the board or come to PTSO meetings, I could see them running with, the board is not trying to be visible. They don't really want to hear our concerns. And I think it's important that, kind of like what Christin said, if we came up with a different approach, a different way of still being visible and still having that ability for them to see us and for them to know that we're listening to them, I think that's huge. I think also, you know, with everything that happened last year, it was a lot of people with the PTOs and the PTSAs that were in support of the board, and I think it's because of that long history that we've had with them. So I don't want to lose that because I think it's really vital.
Anyone else?
Have we run into legal problem, or how did it actually play out in the last years?
How did what play out?
Like, so you were at Harris Hill, is that right, Krista? So
Yes, I've been Harris Hill's liaison for the last 2 years.
So have you found that sort of over and over you're asked questions that you couldn't answer, or, you know, weren't legally allowed to answer, or?
Oftentimes the questions that are asked are questions that have already been answered through board documents or through superintendent's communications or the newsletter. So usually I have the answers that have already been communicated. I did speak with other people just asking how they did it, and a board member shared with me that even when they're asked a question at the meeting, they don't answer it. They'll say, this is where it's been communicated, you can find it here. So that would be a way to still have that relationship, or at least accessibility, without communicating anything. We ourselves, to my knowledge, have never been in a legal, like we've done something illegal like that. I do know that it can I have a couple of years experience, so I know my first couple of meetings I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because you're still learning everything. So I do think, and the first several meetings are uncomfortable. And I think when we had a lot of concerns last year around security and what things were happening, I definitely got asked a lot of questions. But I think because I was present and was able to just reiterate what was already said, it just calmed people down and let them see I think it's reading it on a piece of paper versus having someone that you know communicate with you. I just think it's relationships. I don't know. That's how I view it as. It's having a relationship. So I may not always agree with you, but if they have a relationship with you, I think they're more likely to trust you because, you know, I've been fortunate because I've been at the same school for 2 years. So I feel like I really know the, you know, Harris Hill community on a different level than I would be prior to being liaison. What we used to do is we would get a list of all of the PTA meetings for the month, and we would just randomly sign up. So one month I might have Cobbles, the next month I might have Scribner, then I might have the high school, and you didn't. So I had thought about, because in West Irondequoit we have liaisons, so like board members are assigned to school, and so I had suggested that. So we discussed it as a board, and we made the decision to try it for a year. And the schools really appreciated it, and the board members felt like they were able to have a better relationship. Because sometimes you can't go, and if you can't go, it feels better just saying, hey, I can't make it, but here's my notes. If you have any questions, please email me, and I'll direct them to the superintendent. So that's just how it's been in the past for some history.
If you're envisioning a different, something replacing this. What can you speak to?
So I want to emphasize that this doesn't mean that we're pulling away, right? We're wanting to continue to work with the school and also hear from the community. So Dr. Potter and I, we will be at the PAB meetings monthly and bring information back to the board. So the danger in this, with individual board members going, is it creates, I think, confusion with the community and exactly what our role is. And also, it puts you, like Christin said, and it really can put you in uncomfortable situations at times because we are not allowed to speak or act in an individual capacity. So we are a board when we're functioning together, all 7. And so, again, this is not a way for us to try to pull away from the community. We're just pivoting and reimagining what that collaboration looks like. We want to hear what's going on. We want to get feedback, but we also want to stay within alignment with legal guidance and also the guidance from Monroe County School Board Association, and make sure that we are also leading by example in our community, and reminding the the public and that of course questions should be redirected to the board president or to the superintendent. And just really trying to make sure that we are aligned with sending out that message collectively as a board. I think that's important for us to continue to move forward with reimagining how we improve communication with our community. So I'd like to thank you all just for this discussion, and I think that moves us to, does anyone else have anything else as we wrap up? Okay, so that moves us to, I don't think we have unfinished business.
So can I just clarify? So that is the step moving forward regardless of a vote and how the whole board feels on this?
So this does not need to be a vote giving guidance because this is it's not a policy. And so in terms of us doing what we are in line with in terms of doing best practice, this is what was the advice that was given to us by our legal consultants and also Monroe Community School Board Association. And again, to reiterate, this is not a pulling back. It's because Dr. Potter and I, and if I am not available, then Krista will be able to attend those meetings. We meet with the PBAs monthly, and we'll get the information and be able to also hear from the community in that way. And that with regards to that situation.
So I'm going to sit on this for right now because I don't think it would be appropriate for me to respond at the moment. But if you've heard dissenting opinions, and we're a board of 7, and we make a decision as a board. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
I appreciate that.
I would say my concern with this approach is that this is the leadership this year, and if this is the precedent that's being set, then we don't know what the leadership is going to look like next year. And if we're not, as a group of 7, collectively agreeing to something, then it could go left.
I hear you.
In the future.
And I respect your input, but unfortunately, there's times when we may not agree, and as president, then I have to also make a decision that's best for the board. I've spoken with every individual of the board and gotten a consensus, and so doing
Wait, can you? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. When you say you've spoken,
I've spoken to.
But we should be voting in public.
But this is not something we need to vote on because this is not it's not a policy. It might be our board norm for us, but it's not a policy that we need to vote on. And under guidance from Monroe Community County Executive School Board Association, this does not have to be voted on. And also within that, this is following best practice from their guidance that they've provided us. So if we say we're going to do excellence, that means that we need to be following best guidance. And we need to model that. And it will, it may be adjustment, but again, I can speak for myself, and I think even for you all, we are still committed to having communication with the community. That hasn't changed. We're just changing how we're communicating, so that we are staying within the guidelines of our legal responsibilities as board members. So
if we have a PTA or PTO or a PTSA that would like to talk to the board, how can they do that? Could they maybe one of our special presenters?
Yes.
Or
so that's something
like
that? We're going to talk about just more as a board, but we wanted to possibly talk about maybe inviting them in and being that. So again, we want to hear from the community, and we want to be involved because we know that these organizations do some amazing things that we'd still like to, as a board, all hear. And also, we want the community to know what's going on at the different schools, because we have amazing things going on at different schools. And if you're, a parent at one school, you may not know all the things. So we're just having to still figure out those specific details. But yes, we invite them to come in. We invite them to come to the board meetings. But also, they can also reach out. Send us their notes. Send us what's happening through emails. And also, Dr. Potter and I will be attending the meetings monthly to get that information and bringing it back to the board members.
Would we have the opportunity as a board to visit PTAs as a body, or boosters or whatever?
If there's 4 of us, then it's a quorum, and so it'll be considered a meeting, so we can't do that.
So we're going to move to unfinished business. We did that already.
do you want to read it out or?
Okay, so I will just, with that update, it is not letting me. Yes. So the committee assignment, so the agenda setting meetings will be myself and Krista and Dr. Potter. And then the Monroe County School Board Association committees will be, for executive committee, myself and Dr. Potter. Information exchange will be Patrick, Scott, and Dr. Potter. District operations, labor relations would be members of senior cabinet. NISBA legislative representative will be Susan, and Scott as the alternate.
Also, there'll be the Monroe County School Board for legislative as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the Monroe County legislative as well, and for the New York State, the NISMA, would be Susan, and then Scott as alternate for both of those committees. And then for the subcommittees, we have the Board of Orientation as Emily and Christin, and then policy is Emily, Christin, myself. And community committees, for audit, it's Christin, Krista. And for facilities, it's Emily and Patrick. In health and safety, it's Kristen, Patrick, and Scott. And sustainability will be Susan. That is all for unfinished business. And can I have a motion? Oh, questions or comments, right? For unfinished business. Can I have a motion made in a second that the meeting be adjourned at 8:39 p.m.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? A favor, none opposed. Meeting adjourned.